Hello, class. Today we're going to talk a little bit about media advisories. And media advisories, I just kind of like to think of as kind of a news release light. Basically, you could write a short news story from a media advisory, but generally, I probably only send about 6 of these a year, and it's about to tell people about an event, or you may have some big news coming that you want to let them know about. The purpose is just really to quickly deliver the what, who, where, when, why, and how of the story to journalists. Just a basic information. I use these to tell media about a news conference or a check presentation, and you can use them when you don't have enough time to put together a full-blown news release. Usually it's to journalists and bloggers seeking news relevant to their audiences, and then you'll email them, you could fax them, you could hand deliver them, post them on your website. Rarely would send them through the mail, but I send them, also to tell people about things that are coming up. Maybe you don't give the whole story away either. Keys to the success here is that they're quick, they have the details, and they're timely. So literally write who, what, when, where, and why. Keep it simple, basic information, but enough time for media to have time to cover your event. Keep it to a page, single space, not double space, and the 5 W's and how, if appropriate. It should be concise enough to write a brief news story. So this is basically what it would look like. I almost always email them. I rarely would fax or hand deliver it, but you could do that. In the subject line, you would literally write media advisory and then just the basics. This is a good example of they're going to name a new basketball coach. And they're not giving it away who it is, but in this example, they're saying that the president will introduce the new basketball coach. That's a pretty good example. If you were going to do a paper one, you would have it on the company letterhead, literally say media advisory, but it's very similar to a news release, just a little bit shorter. Never send a media advisory for just a routine news story. What you want to send this for is like a big news story, something big is coming up. And because media advisories are only for important news stories, consider making follow-up calls to targeted recipients. So if you're going to have a news conference on a Thursday, you might send the media advisory on Tuesday, Wednesday, make those follow-up calls. Let's also talk about media kits. So you've sent out your media advisory and media are coming to your news conference. So what do you give them? Well, you give them a media kit. So that's to deliver to journalists and bloggers more information than a news release could supply. So if people come to your event, you can give it to them on paper in a folder, post it to your website, hand out DVDs or videos or photos on CD, even email all of that, news release, fact sheet, photos to journalists. So you would, in a media kit, you would have at least one news release along with backgrounders. So that might be the bio. In our case, for body mechanics, a backgrounder might be about Diane and how she got started. A fact sheet might be just a basic stripped down facts of the news release. A photo opportunity advisory, that might tell them, hey, there's a workout coming up. And if you had a photograph or image, like in our case, it's Ian, it's a before and after. Here product samples get a recipient's attention. Photos would generally have captions, but you call them cut lines. So if you're talking about a product sample, it's good. I got a media kit about some Disney World roller coaster called the Everest or the Mountain. It came with a piece of rope and a carabiner. Still remember that. Photos have captions called cut lines. First sentence is in present tense. So Coach Hessler watches his players go through drills on the first day of practice, something like that. Second sentence usually is past tense. College basketball teams began practice on Friday, October 15th. And a backgrounder, the purpose is to supplement the news release. You're not withholding information. The news release has it all, but the backgrounder provides relevant information, a little more. And of course, this needs to go to bloggers and journalists. You can have a paper PDF version for a backgrounder. It's very similar as a news release, except you would probably label it a backgrounder. And usually you'd give this in a media kit, or post it to a website, obviously. So here's a backgrounder that's printed. It's pretty straightforward. The title is key. I'd even say something like, background information on Drury's 17th president. Very clear about what this is. So backgrounder is not a news story, don't have a news headline, don't have a news lead. They sound sort of like an encyclopedia entry, like you would say Abraham Lincoln is the example from our book. Uh, Little bit like hypertext, linked information, in a web story, where you can click on a web story, it'll take you to more information. This is the more information. No unattributed opinions. It's really just objective. It's just information. Fact sheets are good. I always liked these when I was a journalist. They supplement the news release, kind of like a media advisory, but more details. You give this to the journalist, can post it to a website or deliver it on DVD, CD, or paper. When I was a TV reporter, I love fact sheets because I'm not going to read like a two-page news release usually. I just need the basic facts, what's happening, and this would usually give it to me. So complete a journalist could write a short news story using only the fact sheet, but you've just taken out all of the everything but the basic who, what, when, where, why, how. Um, so the O'Reilly Family Event Center opened today. The $13.5 million arena broke ground in May 2009, following a 2007 $6 million gift from the O'Reilly family. That's basically what you could write from a fact sheet. Again, paper, PDF, label it fact sheet, single space, extra space between paragraphs. Again, this is the format, pretty straightforward. Then there's also photo opportunity advisories. This is really for photographers, including video crews. And so your audience, there are news photogs and videographers. You would either email this or give it to them on paper. Here you need to give a good description of an event. So say on Tuesday, September 18th, Jury's Physics Club will conduct its monthly gravity test in which the jury students conduct a tongue-in-cheek test to see if gravity still works by dropping items off of the vacant Bell Hall. This week, students will be dropping a toilet. News photographers and videographers will have access to the drop and interviews afterwards with the president of the physics club. There you go. That's a photo opportunity. Again, I'd usually use rarely. It's got to be really good. But you just label it photo opportunity. You might put the email subject line photo opportunity. It's really not, these are not meant for publication, kind of like a fact sheet and a media advisory. You want to paint a picture in the photog's mind by describing what's going to happen. And then you would, same format, who, what, when, where, why. And then the photo opportunity advisories just can be a little more attention grabbing, descriptive opening paragraph, fact sheet format. And the how section can include lighting and electrical information for photographers. This was always key when I was going to a news conference or something like that. You wanted to make sure that there was going to be plenty of power and places to plug in our lights. So that is media advisories and media kits. I hope you enjoyed it.